On the agenda, the first item on the agenda are the meeting of, the minutes of May 6th. Does anyone have any comments about them? No?
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 230 Poplar Avenue, which is an addition and deck on the rear of the house, and to restore the front porch on the northwest corner of the house. So, and our architect is our Harb member, Cam. So Cam, would you like to present your project? See what it's like to be on the other side?
Good evening.
Oh.
I'll do this first. This one's on, right?
Cam, could you put a hat on because the glare off the top of your head is...
It's already started. All right, I'll introduce myself. I'm Cam Lacey. I'm the architect for this project, and I'll be presenting it for Scott and Connie Enox, who live at 230 Poplar Avenue. And Connie's here tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is give you guys some more information that will help to describe the project and the area. And I'll hand that up now. Okay, you should have 3 pieces to that package that I just sent up. One has the North Wayne Historic District called out and the house in question, and a description that comes right out of the North Wayne Historic District, the building inventory, which was done in 1985. So there's a description there that talks about this house. And then if you look at the R3 zoning area in that district, the house is down towards kind of the north, I guess it's the northeast corner, and it's highlighted in red. It's on Poplar Avenue between Woodland and Radnor Street. There are also some little circles with letters in them, which are photographs that are part of that package, which gives you a sense of all the houses that are on that side of the street. This house was built in 1905 by a builder named Jonathan Lengel, who did about 50 houses in the area. Wendell and Smith did most of the building in Wayne, but they took a break and went somewhere else, and then a few other people got their chance. So they built probably, I think on this street there's maybe 8 of this style house, and it's a 3-story, I'll just read the description, a 3-story side gabled house with a stuccoed first story and shingled second and third. It has a prominent centered cross gable with an oriel window in the second story and has a full-width front porch with a shed roof and railing with square balusters. The 2 center porch columns are massive pebble-dashed masonry, while those on the corners are triple squared wood columns. They talk about noteworthy features, and they say none, but I think that's probably should be updated. In 1957, the record shows that the front porch was removed and part of it was enclosed. And that's the picture you see today. If you look in the following pictures pages, which are P4, P5, and P6, and P7, you'll see 3, 4. There are 4 houses in this set that are the same design with several different variations. Most of it has to do with the columns. There are columns that are masonry that are actually stone. There's some that are this pebble dash masonry. And then you have some wood columns on stone piers. And then you have the outside columns are a grouping of 3 wood, and then the 2 centers are either masonry or wood. This one, according to the 57 record, had the pebble dash, big masonry columns in the middle, and the 3 wooden columns on the corners. And there's evidence to show that that was there, so we know what this used to look like. What we're trying to do is get a further interior space to the rear of the building, which would be a breakfast room and a kitchen expansion, and then also push the deck further out into the garden. And then if you're looking at the photograph on the first page of this, that right-hand indented space is where we want to make that porch happen. And I'll go through the plan to show you how that works. The second sheet in that package shows the existing plan with a whole lot of notes that show direction that these photographs were taken, which show a lot of details of how this house is put together. And we're going to match everything. Most of the work is the pebble dash siding. Some of the rake details we're going to detail the same. Window trims, sills, and the copper roof that exists now. So that's kind of introducing the house and the project. The third piece of that is an updated set of elevations which actually show the side. And I can walk you through the plan now.
Cam, could you just show everyone what the front of the house looks like?
Yes. I don't know if you can zoom. Here's the front as it exists today. See if I have a closer shot. I don't think I have a closer shot than that. And then this is the, I like this. This is the historic district with Poplar Avenue. And then here's the house here. Here's Radnor Street and Woodland. So we're talking about this house, and then all the photographs in this package are lettered here and in the package. But that's the front. This area here is what we're talking about, installing the porch across. This was infilled. All of this was open porch.
So does that vestibule area get taken out now?
Yeah, we're going to cut that back about 4 feet so that it then has a covered entry again. And there's too much value to actually the inside space that's been created, so they're not going to get rid of that, and it's also a cost issue. But we're trying to expand that as much as we can, and we're getting some numbers to even expand it more. But the idea would be to bring back a porch that was in keeping with what was there originally, although not exactly. And our feeling was that, you know, with the top of this house is very symmetrical. The bottom used to be very symmetrical as well. We're not symmetrical now. And when you have a solid and a void, as in an enclosed section and a porch, you're still not symmetrical. So you put it all under one roof line, and it sort of marries everything together. And rather than do a pebble dash, bring back a pebble dash column and go to the 3 wooden on the corner to further kind of take this thing into more of a non-symmetrical look, we decided to just go with this straight columns. And these are 18-inch diameter. They're polystone, which is kind of a marble and resin mix, and they have an emphasis to them, so they're, correct. I had a lot of conversations with staff here about railing heights, which I've talked to you guys about, and so far I haven't gotten to any relief on that. If you put in a railing, it has to conform to code, so it has to be 3 feet off of the finished floor. So what I've done is picked a very heavy section of handrail and subrail that really defines, that's a very character a characteristic of the original porch line. And then square balusters that have a pattern, and then an equally deep lower rail. And I think once you have a huge column in that kind of scale, it's not as away
Visually.
from the scale of original as you would think. And I've got a drawing that shows that. So, but anyhow, I'll walk you through the plan real quick.
Can I just ask one question about the column? On the drawing, on the sketch drawing, it looks like it's a column that's tapered. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's, it's narrow at the top, and then it sort of comes down, but it curves down. It's kind of the historic, a lot
Yeah,
of houses have
that's
that.
called an antithesis.
Yeah.
And it's divided into thirds. And so the top 2/3 have a pitch to them or a slope.
Right.
And then that bottom third is straight.
Is that what you're doing, or
Yeah.
you are?
Yeah.
Oh,
And it might be exaggerated a little bit on the sketch, but that's the traditional, historically correct way to do it. And these are 8-foot columns. So that first third, which ends up being like 32 inches, which is where the railing wants to come in.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of there. That square part goes in there, but we're going into the slightly, and it's a small taper. It's a visual thing you see from far away, but when you're working with it, it's not.
no, I think it's great. I mean, it does look like the original, like a lot of the columns on some of the other houses, too.
Well, I think if you keep with the large scale, you're gonna, really mimic that well. And I don't want to take a whole lot of time, but I'll go through what's here now, what we're doing in plan and in elevation, and then I have some things to show you for materials that can explain even further. So on this plan, we zoom out a little bit. Okay. That's pretty good. If I can get this piece here. All right, this is the first floor, and here's the front of the house. Dotted in here is where this porch will be dropped in, and we're going to take this area apart and make the porch actually come all the way in this shape. And that'll give us an entryway that's covered and a usable porch and still maintain an interior usable space that's here right now. In the rear, there's a large deck. If you look at any of the pictures, the gardens back here are beautiful. It's almost hard to see the house from any place. It's just lush. We're going to continue that idea, but just bring it into the yard a little bit. So what we're going to do is add an addition here that's a sunroom, and then this part will expand the kitchen and also make a breakfast area, and then the deck will push out into the garden even further. And these areas will get reworked to stay as mudroom, laundry, and powder room. And it's a very traditional front entry. I mean, what happens now is you get stopped, and this is the first thing that greets you. And so we're going to move that into the back, into the service area. But you normally would come in and you'd see this beautiful stair, this beautiful woodwork in this stair. And then it's traditional right side dining, left side living. And the plans on the street are just, sometimes they're flipped. But that's a traditional layout, and then all the service areas are off the back. So if we go to the proposed, on the next page, I think I gave you an existing plan as well in that package. The areas that are in blue and dotted are things that we're removing. So as you can see, we're taking this area out to create a front porch area, and then sort of a foyer with a closet. This is an existing window that's really a nice scale we're going to keep. And then we're thinking about putting in a stained glass piece here. The 2 columns, porch beams, mahogany, 3¼ inch mahogany tongue and groove flooring, big heavy wood handrails, beaded board ceiling, stone pier to match. The whole house has a base of stone. And one thing we're trying to price now is to rework this area, move this window over, and expand this a little bit so that we center this area up a little bit more and get a bigger interior foyer, and also just enter all the way in, instead of having this little offset.
So
Would you add a post, a third post then?
I don't think we want to do that, because it would be a false post, and I'm not really, I don't see us doing that.
So you're really moving that wall, I guess that's it, see, I guess,
I'd have to move it in line with this wall right here
Mhm.
to get another post in,
That's the wall right above your pointer,
right there.
where the foyer is. Moving that,
Yeah, we're
That
actually
further
taking this
down.
wall out. It goes like this now,
right.
and then this is open, this is outside right now.
But you're saying later you would, where your pointer is right now, that stretch of wall right there, you said you'll probably move that further.
Well, we're pricing it now to take this window out, move it over, and, cut more of this out to create more of an open area, like in line with the stair. And then this whole foyer and outside landing area will become larger. And then it'll also center things up on the facade a little bit better. So it's really a matter of if we can do it in the budget, that's what we'd like to do. It doesn't change any of the materials or anything, but that's what we're trying to look at. Off the back, here's the sunroom, breakfast room, expanded kitchen, laundry and mud stays, powder room's moved to here, little pantry area, and then the deck moves around in the garden area. And there's, I think it's a bat roost, which is a little tower here on the corner that is on the existing deck. We're going to reuse that and move it over. And it shows up in some of those pictures. It looks like a really high cupola. It might be 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall, and it's got louvers in it. And it's either for bats or for butterflies. But I think it's bats. But we're going to reuse that too. This little porch has some interesting details on it, which we're going to maintain. I wanted to make sure we kept this massing, which has a shed roof on it as well, and that's shown in some of those pictures. This will have a copper standing seam roof on top of it, which connects to the other roof that's on this side, so that'll all look the same. These will be shed roofs off the back. The shingles we're looking at are a heavy tab shingle that has a pretty big shadow line that looks a little bit like slate, but it's an asphalt shingle. There's slate on the main roof now, on the main cap and the gable going through. But slate's out of the budget, and it's also a shed, which is a little bit of a slope that we don't want to put slate on. So what I'd like to do is keep that color, keep that feel, keep that scale, and also on a shed roof in a lot of treed areas, if you have a really heavy shingle, it's going to take a lot of abuse more from falling debris. There's no work at this time on the second floor other than interior cleanup, so I won't get into that. In the elevations, I have the larger views here. Here would be the front elevation. Here's the new porch area. We're going to take the door that's existing and take it out and reinstall it. These are the new columns, 18-inch rounds, wooden railing system. It's all of the exterior cladding will be the AZAC material. This will be stone as a pier, and these will be cedar lattice covers for underneath. And this is all a pebble dash. It's a real heavy, sharp stone pebble in these stucco, and that'll all be recreated in anything we do. And then the standing seam stops right here right now, and we'll add this piece in that'll connect to this, and then everything will run across and look more like it used to look. On the rear elevation, this is the existing porch, which has a shed roof that works its way into here. And this is the breakfast room addition, and this is the sun porch addition. It's a little further back. But they both have shed roofs that land about a course of cedar down from the windowsills, same pitch. And then the deck comes across here, and I've taken the railing out. The railing kind of cruises across at this height. I've taken it out so we can see what's going on. It's all double hung windows, trimmed out to match the existing, but using AZAC. The Pella Architect series and a color to match what's there. 6/6, keeping all that. This is a window that was done at another time, which is a casement. And we're not addressing that now, but that's kind of an odd one in the scheme of things here. Go to the side elevations. This would be the southwest elevation. You can see the piece of the porch that we put in there. It has a full bay on the first floor that goes down the grade. This is all that stucco, that pebbled finish, stone base. And this is all cedar shingle siding. And this is all slate, all on these roofs. This is the existing little porch roof, which you can see is pretty predominant here. We're going to keep that, and then beyond that is going to be the addition work, and then there's a piece that's the same slope that's beyond that, a little bit back. And here's the deck coming out. Deck's going to be all cedar work with a mahogany cap, 5/4 by 6 cedar decking, AZEK trim boards. And I've got a detail of this as well to show you how that goes together. On the other side, you can see how the other porch was enclosed, and they just sort of left the details in place and then filled it in. We're not doing anything with that. It's a very tight area, and the driveway is kind of on this side, so it's not really visible. So we're just going to leave that alone. This is a round bow window, full masonry all the way to the floor. Grade, and then here's the sunroom addition. We're going to match. There's the stucco we're going to match, and there's a concrete band that runs along the floor line that is about an inch out from everything. It comes a water table that is above the stone, and we're going to mimic that here in a stucco detail, and then I'm going to go to a smoother finish stucco down below and pick a color in this stone that kind of takes everything together and just make that color, work with the stone as best as we can. We wanted to keep the stonework on the front, and once this is all planted up, you won't see anything back here anyhow, so it's just a color backdrop at this point. And then you've got the little piece of deck you can see here. The last sheet is just a couple of details that show a little bit more what's going on with the railings and the porch. This would be an elevation of the front porch with the large wood handrail, square balusters, lower rail, 18-inch polystone. Here's your mahogany decking, AZEK trim board, cedar lattice, infill, stone pier, and porch beam. The porch beam runs, there's an existing one that's kind of buried here. It becomes kind of a freeze line, which we're just going to pick up and run that straight through. So that detail will just be totally remade on this side. So that's how that works. And then there's the standing seam above it. And here's a section through it if you want to see how everything goes together. This is a stone veneer with a CMU backer footing. And then the rear deck, we're looking at doing a similar detail to the front, which is I'm trying to do 2 balusters that are 1 inch apart, and then take that as a module, and then move it over every 2.5 inches. So it's, that 1 inch apart, 2.5 inches, and then, keep doing that as a rhythm. And that's going to be mimicked in the rear deck as well. And you can see how that kind of goes together in here. And this is something I got from the township. I'm not sure if that's going to come up. But these were the plans from 1957, which showed the installation of that, closing in that porch area. And we can see here how it says remove this column, remove that column. And then there's some section work that shows what's going on here as well. So we have pretty good evidence from written and plan what used to be there, and plus other examples on the street. So I think that's unless you want to go through some pictures, I think, you know, the details are all going to be matched. You know, I think the massing is, you know, within scale of everything. It doesn't take anything away. Like I said, the only thing we're going to try to do is maybe expand this area a little bit if the budget works. And I've got some materials if you want to see them, too.
Do you have the roofing shingles with you?
I don't have them with me, but I have a spec on them. It's a GAF. It's called a, let's see. It's called a Grand Slate.
Oh, yeah.
And
with it.
here's a shot of
Right.
one house. So you can see it's got a big shadow line. They're big shingle panels. I think they're 40 inches by something. So it's a big section that goes down at a time. And you know, I think it gives a good feel to.
So you're going to re-roof that existing shed roof to?
Yeah, I think
match?
we're gonna. It's all due now. Everything's kind of ready to have that happen. So all that would match.
Mhm.
And then as you look up, you'd have slate above, way up high, which needs a little work, but I'm not sure what we're doing.
Scott talked to someone today, and they're gonna be coming out.
All right, so that's to be determined. So we may, you know, if we end up getting rid of slate, we'll probably do this up there.
No, we won't get rid of the slate, but they're gonna check and replace the slate that's missing.
Okay. So the slate will stay.
It's good.
What materials did you bring in to show us?
Well, we have lots of railing pieces, which I think is kind of one of the most important parts to a porch. So what we have is this is the top handrail right there. And then it has a lower piece that sets in this groove here, like that,
This is for the front porch?
for the front porch.
Mhm.
And then the baluster is about 1 3/8 by 1 3/8, and it has this cut in it that sits on the lower rail on a bevel piece. So this would attach here. And then on the bottom, you have a bevel that this piece sits into, like that. And then you have, this is kind of the structural part of it, that fits into there.
Mhm.
And then this whole thing, this distance in here would be 4 inches from the deck. And then that piece fits like that. So all the fasteners can be hidden, which I like about it. And it's also made out of hemlock and cypress. So they're durable exterior woods. You know, I generally like to do a real heavy stain or something dark on the top cap, and then you can get into fun colors or whatever. You know, there's lots of beading. You can see that. These little beads in here. There's lots of little beading. You can get some color, have some fun color with that. The ceiling is going to be a beaded board. It's an AZAC material. It's a V groove. It's a 1/2 inch by 6. I don't mind using this stuff when you can't touch it. You know, I like to use real materials when you are going to be in contact with it, but when it's up out of the way. You know, this can be tooled like wood, and wood is a slab, so they're the same thing in effect. And so I don't have any problem using this stuff. And then this is just a slab of AZAC, which is the trim. Everything's a flat trim. The sills are rounded. They're bullnose. We'll do that. And actually, the header over the window actually sticks a little bit beyond. So all those details, and there's a little piece on the top for a drip. We'll match all that. And then this is a piece of mahogany. It's 3 1/4 at 3/4. It's a tongue and groove. we put this bevel down, so this ends up being a butt joint. So it ends up looking, it's a very nice finished floor. And you use it's an Australian tung oil to seal it. So it's not a urethane finish. It seals it. It gives it a little sheen, but it wears. You oil it again later. It's a really nice product, and it keeps the redness. It'll get a little darker with time if you keep it right. You don't want it to go gray. So
Is the porch baluster and the whole, all the railings and everything, those are stock items? And then
yeah,
you put
these
it
come from
together?
a company. I mean, you can get a lot of these. I mean, Tague will have some of this stuff too, but this is a company called Vintage Woodworking. There's Federal. There's a whole bunch of them, but they make this. It's not a custom-made piece. I don't have a piece from this house. I could look at another house, but they tend to be so massive, and when they get into that lower scale, it works, but it almost looks strange to have a really high, heavy mass at 3 feet. So I felt when you put these two together, that visually was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then the way these all connect up, the same thing applies.
So really, the difference with the historic houses, aren't a lot of the baluster, a lot of the railings are a little bit thicker, but looking at it from the street, it would look very similar. But
Yeah.
they're just narrow, but the newer ones are narrower.
Yeah, the older ones might be
Yeah.
6, 8 inches. Some of
Right.
them. I mean, they're really enormous.
They're huge,
And beautiful,
yeah.
but I think we can get the same feeling with it, with materials today that are more reasonable.
Mhm.
And then this is a section of a polystone column. And it's if you install these and hit them, you don't know that it's anything but solid. They're amazing materials. They're structural. I think the 18-inch round that we have spec'd is like a 20,000-pound load. I mean, we have nothing that is going to
Yeah.
break this thing. And I usually put a piece of pressure-treated lumber inside, so that when you make these connections, you have something as a backer. So you just glue something in there, and then you actually cut this to the radius. And
So that doesn't need to be painted either.
this needs to be painted.
It needs to be painted?
Yeah, but it takes paint like, AZEK
Yeah.
does the same
Yeah,
thing. It
yeah,
all
I know.
takes really good paint.
Yeah, with the primer.
Although you can put lights inside of it and it'll glow from the inside without paint. It's not, you look at the finish and it's mottled a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like limestone.
Yeah, well, it's got, marble chip in it, so this has been tooled a little bit. You can see how the sanding marks show up, so you really don't want to, it's very porous. It'll pick up stains and stuff, so you want to paint it. But that's part of the paint combination on the house too. It all go with that, so.
So is that column a standard, again, you can buy the standard in the taper you can buy
Yeah.
also?
Yeah, it's a company called Chadsworth.
Yeah.
And there are a few more of those, but this company, they've got, any number of scale sizes, capitals. They've got 36 feet high to 5 feet tall.
So Cam, just for sort of educational purposes, if anyone is watching this, in terms of expense, people are always saying, well, we can't do something because it's too expensive. In terms of expense, how does that compare to some of these other materials that people will use for columns, like these, aluminum things that are not appropriate, or
Well,
wooden
those
columns?
are generally a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
And a lot of those aren't structural. You have to put a tube steel or something inside that. What I like about these is that they are structural, they're solid, you can cut them, you can work with them, they hold paint, and nothing will rot them. You vent them from the bottom and through the top, just because that has to happen anyhow. And you can get wood columns this size now, but they're very expensive, and it's still wood, and that's going to have a problem over time.
so are those less expensive than wood?
I think they're they're really close. I can't quote you exactly what it was, but I remember looking at them thinking I'll just go with wood, and then I was looking at the price, and it was so similar that it didn't really warrant saying, well, I can't do this one or the other one. You sort of can pick it, but and I've gone back and forth. I've had these installed, and I'm fine with them, and I've gone with wood, and it depends on what you're trying to do. But I think in this case, these houses, if you look at the details, there's a ton of details on these houses, and anything we can do that's historically good, that has a less maintenance value to it, I'm all for, and it doesn't take away anything. So that was our kind of thought with this. Go back to the railing, the thing that you touched, go back to a natural wood on that. The flooring, something very, very organic, you can't get a pine now that, what all the decking is today, that's, it's all new growth, it doesn't hold paint, it's just something to stay away from, so. And I don't want to go to composite decks on these front porches, so mahogany is a really good material for that. And I also like bringing in this tone with that house color is really beautiful, so it all works together.
Are you going to paint the railing too?
Yeah, this would probably be a dark finish, similar to this, maybe even darker.
Stain or paint?
It depends. This is a finger jointed section here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure whether this is just something they sent me. I'd have to talk to them about it, but you can see how it's laminated here. That doesn't matter in this section here, but when I get into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where am I? This is left and right. It's really weird. Yeah. So I think that would be a paint detail. And we haven't gone over any of that stuff. It's just, we still have to go to zoning as well. So we brought these drawings up to a certain level to come here and talk about it and go through zoning. And then when zoning says yes, no, maybe, whatever, then we finish them off. But this is the project. There's nothing new about it, or nothing that's going to change other than that one little area we were talking about, which would only make it better, I think.
Yeah, I have two comments. I think, first of all, it's great to see these materials because, you can really get a feel for what they are, what the proportions are. And I also think it's great for everyone to know that they're around and, that you can put them together. You can, a lot of people do this, but you can put them together in such a way that they really do look, the proportions look really good. I wish that we could, in our museum, it's too bad that's not happening because it would be great to have these kinds of things on display so people could know what they could do.
Well, we could still do that.
I think it's...
Every time we get, and these are my samples, but we get whatever the job is, there'll be cutoffs. We can make up a mock, and then goes in as, here's an example.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
It would be nice to put that
First,
someplace.
we'll need the space here, though.
But even, even
There's
if we
a lot
could
of
get
wall
a...
space up here.
Right.
So, I think the good thing about all this stuff is it's so easy to look it up and find things online that I stopped keeping samples because it didn't make sense because everything changes so quickly. Although when I get a specific project, I'll pull in samples that are current. And these are even a couple years old. So there's probably even something, that's a little different on these. But, the concept is here. If this thing is a little bit wider or has a little deeper gouge in it or whatever, so what? It's the same concept, and that's what I'm after. But I definitely didn't want to skimp on this.
Right.
That needs to be that real heavy section that you really feel. So,
That's especially true of trim pieces.
yeah.
You can buy the trim today. 6 months from now, you want to get another piece, and it could be like a 1/16 off, and it's enough where you have now a shadow line, where it should have been a butt before.
Yep.
And I don't know, either the manufacturing process changes, or they just try to skimp on the wood, but
It's all the above.
Yeah, it's like, you have to buy enough for the whole project and make sure you have some left
And
over.
I've had occasions when you order this as 3 1/4 and it's becomes 3 3/16, or and then who's going to know?
Doesn't
But
go
I know,
together.
and it's like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this is this is the real deal, and it's it's gorgeous. I've used this on a few porches, and it's really neat stuff.
What is the, again, this is just for educational purposes, what is the expense of that, say, compared to having the, that decking?
Pressure-treated.
The pressure-treated decking?
Well,
I mean,
pressure-treated is
I
not
wasn't
even the
thinking of
same
that.
world, but-
I was thinking more of the fiberglass stuff, or,
Composite.
Yeah, I
know.
I haven't even priced that, because I just didn't put it in my
yeah.
palette, I think what they do is they push that number, that price point up as far as they possibly can, and try to be a little less than the real thing. In some cases, they'll go over because they know it'll last forever, and then you're paying for that. So they're always right around there. They used to be, when they were first coming out, there was a huge difference, but then they had to bring all that down.
So you could really, if you're doing a porch and you want to be historically accurate, you could really do it with that. And the price point would be similar to other stuff that wouldn't be as appropriate.
Well, I think so. I mean, if you're smart about it, some of the stuff will be cheaper, but it depends on where you get it and how there's a whole bunch of things involved. But,
Yeah.
and that would be some information I think we should also put together. We have samples, but we also have comparisons, and that'll fluctuate over time. But at least maybe we can keep that current.
Yeah, there was I think, originally you had Trek, that was it.
Yeah,
One
Trex.
manufacturer.
Yeah.
And I bet you have at least 10 to 15 major manufacturers now in all the big box stores competing, with
There's
their own.
some that are not good, which is that one.
Yeah, Bill was talking about it earlier.
There's one that we're having problems with. Yeah, so I mean, there's some that have come on board, they've failed, and now there are problems with them. So you need to do a little research. You need to do your research. Most of that stuff gets pulled when it has some problems, but some of it will still be around.
And it's the same thing with bamboo. Everybody's putting in bamboo flooring, but
Yeah.
the biggest thing with bamboo that people don't understand is that it depends where they get the bamboo and at what life stage the bamboo is, because you'll find that once they put the floor together, the things start splitting and doing weird things. All bamboo is not created equal.
Right.
So that's one of the subtleties that,
Well, a lot of the materials in wood today are newer growth, and
it's awful.
I mean, if you pull an old stud out of a house and look at the end grain, it's super tight.
Mhm.
And it's gorgeous, and you take something new and it's really wide, and the wider it is, the more unstable it is, and it also lacks some structural, the same beef that the old stuff did. But so when they harvest all this and then they replant it and they cut it down in another 10 years or whatever it is, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've been picking through. I like to, whenever we do demolition on old houses like this, I like to pull all the old framing out and try to make stuff for the project out of it. Big floor joists that are the old furry ones that are really heavy duty. When you plane them down, they're gorgeous. You make tables out of them. You make, I don't know, casings or, piece of furniture, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you try to do that as much as you can. I wish I had a warehouse, but I don't have anything like that. But, whenever I try to do it on the job, like it's for the job. So you're reusing whatever is there on that job rather than shipping it out. So, but, these houses are, they're gorgeous houses. They've, were built at the turn of the century of 1900s, and they've all had a little something done to them, but they all have the same characteristics. And this one we're just trying to pull back a little bit to its original, as much as we can within the budget, and give it a little extra usability on the interior as well off the back. So,
I think it would be interesting too, just to show what some of the houses on the street look like, if you could, because the addition of the porch completely changes the proportion of the house.
yeah, I'll go through.
It really makes the house look bigger, even if you don't do the entire porch. By having that line that goes all the way across, I think
this,
it'll make it look much different.
These are several, really hard to see, but it's all the central gable detail. But here's the porch that goes all the way across. You can see really easily. This is actually the same porch that used to be on the 230 house. These columns are the big pebble dash. They're actually masonry columns that have been stuccoed. It's a very heavy stone stucco on it. And then the corners are 3 square posts that are put together in more of a kind of a craftsman style. And I think there are 2 houses like this on this. And then these, you can't see this at all, but these are actually stone, like a granite stone and an ashlar cut that make round columns. And then within the column, they have pieces that pop out. It's almost like foot pegs to get up and clean the gutters or something. I don't know. But you know, the kind of the encompassing thing is that, you know, the porch goes coast to coast, goes all the way across. Very central, you know, entry. The entry doors have huge side lights. You know, it's a big show on the outside. A lot of different. This is the same house. You can't see it. And then they change into a different style, a little bit of a Tudor revival. But that has a porch. And then this one was inserted in, I'm not sure when, but obviously not in any time period like this. Here's another Tudor revival. This one is kind of the same without the Tudor, but you know, porch. This porch was installed probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer. This house was just that, and they did a wraparound and a whole addition on the back. I mean, you know, Wayne is really it's a community of porches, so anytime I can have that happen, it's great.
The only issue I have, and I think, and we've come up with this before, and I'm not quite sure how we resolve it, is if you do, I think that, you know, if you do make that change to the front entrance that you're talking about, it will improve it. I think what you're doing is great, but I think that would make it even better, you know, because as you said, it would make it more symmetrical and more in keeping with what the intentions were originally.
Well, I took this shot to show you that, you know, how that symmetry is all lasted out by this addition. And if,
Yeah.
you know, the more I can get over, if I move that window here and I can get over to sort of here,
Right.
column, it's going to feel a whole lot better. So
But-
that's our intent, to try to do that.
I mean, I think that's really nice. But how do we, as a board, go about approving a project where we're not quite sure what is going to happen?
Well, I think in this case, it's the same thing, it's just it's even better,
I think it is better.
you know, if we
But-
can do that.
yeah.
So, you know, I'm bringing that up now because I wanted to make sure that wasn't an, oh my gosh, you know, you did something different. Because that's definitely in our heads, we want to try to do that. And I think what I would probably say is, you know, if we end up doing that, it'll come in as a hardline drawing, and it can be reviewed.
Yeah,
and, you know,
okay.
kind of on an informal basis.
Right, that's what I think we should do,
As a
because,
check.
yeah, I mean, I'm fine with, you know, whichever way you go, but this is something that always comes up, you know, as people are doing their projects, they, you know, things change. And I do think that we should have some kind of a review process or
Well,
something.
what we could do is say, like, grant a certificate with the option of moving that one piece over. You know, grant a certificate with the project as presented. At the same time, and also giving the option to the owner for moving that wall over, as was discussed at the meeting. And that
Yeah,
would
if
cover the
if
whole
we're
thing.
comfortable with both options, I don't see any reason for anybody to have to come back in.
Right,
And if they do go with a third option, then that's different.
that's different.
But I still think, though, that we should at least see a line drawing if it changes. And I'm not saying that so much for this project, because we can, you know, we have good communication among the 5 of us, and it's easy and so forth. But as a precedent, I just think it's good to have something in place, you know, where we can, if there are changes, because it happens like the house on Luella, where they, you know, it kept changing. And those were much bigger changes. But I feel like we should have something so that at least we review the change. You know, we approve it like you said, but we still should review the change, and it doesn't have to be at a formal meeting. But do you feel that way? I mean.
Well, I'm going to ask Bill a question, because if I put this in for permit as is, and I move the wall over, nothing really changes from a permit standpoint. And would you pick that up and say something about it, or,
I would probably pick it up and say something about it,
okay,
yeah. That would be a change similar to like Andrea said for the Llewellyn project.
okay, so there's a safety there.
But I think what John said makes sense, that you approve it with the option,
Yeah.
so that you have that option. I mean, I think the board has a good idea of what your intentions are, so.
And then that can get circulated,
Right, I mean, I think we do.
whatever we
I-
end up with.
Yeah, I think we all know what you're talking about, and we understand it, but I just feel if we're trying to get more documentation when people come in to, you know, to give us information, I think that that's sort of the final project where, okay, that you are making these changes, and we'll get to see that. I just think we should see that.
Well,
I mean, not in, do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, absolutely. I mean, we've done that with
yeah,
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they never do exactly what they
They never
say
do.
they're gonna do, so
And you,
we,
yeah, most people can't. I mean, because things change as you're doing the renovation and so forth, but,
well, they could follow up. We could do the approval as I suggested. And like in all the other cases, within the next 10 days, email us just a revision in that one area. And that would be appended to the application.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then if you
And
go
then
with
when-
it,
Yeah, and then when Bill,
you go
when
with
it
Then he's
comes
got a
up,
record
you
of
don't.
he's got a record of it.
okay.
Yeah, that's, I like that. Because then there's a record. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I'm getting at. I mean,
Yeah, well, there has to be a record, and I think it has to be reviewed before it goes into production.
Right.
yeah.
And it doesn't
Bill.
necessarily have to be the whole drawing, it could
No,
be
just
just that
that-
one little section.
Yeah, just that one little section.
Yeah, I agree.
I like the idea of having a record also, but, you know, we're here to review what the historical aspects of this project is and how it affects the historical character of that neighborhood. And my guess is moving a wall over 1 foot isn't going to make any difference in that determination.
Right.
So-
Yeah, but, yeah,
Well,
I agree with you there, but I think Andrea
it's the
brings up
front
a good
facade,
point
though.
where there could be, and there has been in the past, where people have made significant changes,
Yeah.
where we've talked about significant changes and nothing was done about it, then later on, the construction process comes and it's installed.
Well, sure,
And that's when it does make a difference.
Well, sure, but if someone says, I'm going to do A or B, and if we're okay with both A and B,
Yeah. Yeah, but at least we're on record saying that we approved A or B, and
Right.
what they think A is different, is not different
Right.
from what we think A is.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's important to see what the B
Because
is.
that's when Bill gets in and says, wait a minute, they approved A and you came up with C. And you're saying C is equal to A.
they said there'd be no math tonight.
Oh, this is a Boolean committee here, that's what I'm saying.
I had a question for you guys. I think for, when you're sitting up there and you're trying to talk about a project, to have smaller drawings helps, I think, in terms of not having to open up huge things. What I gave you, was that big enough to see, read, understand, or do you think we should just stay with a larger scale? Because that would be, like, one of the requirements we could say is it has to be at least quarter scale, which is
Yeah.
what these are. But it's kind of cumbersome when you're on the board. So I sort of like that scale, just to be able to have it all right there, and it's easy to look at.
What you gave
But,
us.
yeah, which is
Yeah, this is,
just a
personally,
reduction.
personally, I think it's a really nice package, the way you have the photographs keyed into the diagram, you know, this sheet over here.
Yeah, I wish I had
That,
gotten it all
this
at
is
one
really-
time, then you would have been a little
Actually,
clearer.
we should put something like this up when people go for an application. Here's a typical thing that you should be doing.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right there. I mean, this is a good example. And then this size sheets are, like you say, are not cumbersome, especially if you happen to, sometimes we may get 2 or 3 at a time, and you're driving around looking at the houses, and you've got these sheets all over the place. And this makes it
Right.
very efficient.
I like these. I think
Because
they're
I'm
good.
very accustomed to that, and it's easy for me to understand,
Yeah.
but, you know.
I mean, I
just-
can't see it, but that's my own eyes.
Yeah,
That's
well, I'm just
As
trying
long
to
as I have a
squint, and if it looks
magnifying
okay, you're
glass.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this is good. You know, and you had a lot more information when you came here than what you gave us initially. It would have been nice maybe to have all that before we
Yeah.
saw it. That's my only
That was a
comment.
time issue, and I had a piece of equipment that failed,
Oh,
of course, at the 11th hour, so, so I got it all together, at least I wanted to make sure it got here. There's nothing new, it's just, it explains more.
well, you have the elevation, some
Yeah,
of the side
and then,
elevations and more material and stuff.
This piece is just sort of, this is something that we're sort of asking for now.
I
in
think
this new
that's
work.
great, by the way.
And, it just tells you everything in one page, so that was something I thought we could use.
The other thing I really thought was great was having that historic description.
Yeah.
That was really
I don't know
helpful.
who can get that, whether that's available.
Yeah, I don't know who, we have
Because we
copies
have
of
it, but I don't know how you get it.
Yeah.
I mean, if there had been a picture of the historic house, a historic picture of the house, that
Yeah.
would have been cool too. But something like a picture of it, the historic picture or the description, it really gives you an idea. At least it gave me an idea of what was there. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
They probably have some stuff at the Historical Society. They're Tuesdays and Sundays or something, or
Yeah.
I wasn't able to get by there.
Yeah, but at the same time, we should make it easier for the applicants.
Well, I don't think they
not
have to
going all
have
over.
it,
Oh,
but I don't think it should be a requirement, but
Oh.
I think that, if they can find it, it's
Yeah.
really helpful.
Well, the Historic Society's website is under construction, but they used to have a section in there called Postcards from Wayne, and you could get all this stuff. I mean, it was, the little green book that's Historic Wayne, you've probably seen.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that stuff it was on the site, and there's some other publications out. We got I think a calendar that had a whole bunch of that stuff on it in the beginning of the year. There are several mainline publications that were out there. A lot of that stuff was there, and it's disappeared. So it's not online right now, but I used to go there all the time and find old shots because I would search out Poplar Avenue had a boardwalk as a sidewalk. There's shots like that are really amazing. And I think all of the areas had boardwalks. They were not concreted sidewalks. So I hope they get it up. I haven't
What was it called?
the Radnor Historical Society.
No, I know, but what was the
Oh, it's
book called?
postcards from
Oh, postcards.
Wayne, I think, or.
I'll ask, the person who's doing it is doing a great job. He's trying to compile, as many, the entire collection and put it onto the site.
Well, they had it, and then they had something beyond that, which was today and yesterday. Like they had the 1800s, and then today's shots. And they had, they had all that going on, and then a couple of them, they said we're working on this one to be filled in, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether they've changed the format and they just haven't gotten to it, but it was really, it was a very good site to find that kind of stuff. So
It sounds great.
I hope it comes back soon.
Yeah, I'll ask the person who's putting it together, because I know he's working on it. Well,
I was looking through the rest of my papers just to make sure I got through everything. I think I did.
if we wanted to use this as an example of a thorough and good application, where could we leave this? Could we leave this, a copy of this someplace at your office so people could look at it? Or is there any way that people could actually see what it is that, maybe we should approve this and then
Yeah,
go on
let's
to
go through,
this?
yeah, that's
So you can
new
go.
business.
Yeah. Would anyone like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve?
Make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness as presented at this meeting, with an option, as also was discussed with the meeting, the applicant to provide us with the necessary changes within 10 days.
Does anyone second it?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, it's passed.
Good.
Motion.
Thank you.
Okay, this was a great job.
Nice project.
Very nice project. I love your house.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. Okay. Okay, I think is there any, let's see. Oh, I had one comment before we move on with old business. We had talked about, in the last meeting, we were talking about the barn that's going to be either moved or after 6 months demolished. Do you know of anything that's happened with that?
I heard there was some interest
there was some email that
Yeah.
the builder knew somebody in Westchester, or?
Yeah.
That's about all I know.
Is anyone, who's handling this? I mean, is the owner the one who's in charge of this, do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, they're the only thing we talked about, they would come back to us
Right.
in November, I believe.
Right. No one was specifically charged with,
With trying to get it?
that's
No,
right.
and it's
Done.
not our responsibility to
Yeah.
do that. It's just
Okay,
if someone wishes to get involved in the
yeah. Okay.
process, they're certainly welcome.
I was just wondering.
While I'm down here, I could tell you, I do know two things about that.
Oh, tell us.
Andy Kearns from RKA I had told him about this, and he also was working with the owner on some stuff, and he did the estimates. Remember, he came in and did it? He found somebody, I think, in Willistown Township that was interested, which takes it out of Township.
Right.
So I sort of said, and he sort of said, well, I think you probably want to try to keep it in Wayne if you could, or in Radnor. And if not, it's better to be somewhere than nowhere. So that's one. And then Beverly and I were talking about maybe trying to get Mark Janicek involved with the CSA over at the Willows, as maybe using that as an outbuilding. Because they've got the Willows Cottage, which is kind of the distribution center and the whole show, but they really grow everything off in another corner in a several acre plot.
Yeah.
I forget how big it is, but
3/4 of an
we
acre.
thought, maybe it's not several. But, we thought maybe an outbuilding that would serve that might be something that would be interesting to, because the owner just says, take it and, put some seed down where you take the ruts in my yard. That's kind of it. So, he said he could lose it tomorrow and not wait till November. He's like totally open for whatever.
Yeah.
So they're the only two, and I haven't heard from Mark whether that's true or there's any interest. It's complicated. They're trying to do a lot with nothing right now. So I'm not sure whether that's real or not. But Beverly had, I think, spoken to him quickly. He seemed interested in the idea at least. So
I wonder if anyone spoke to the owner of, on the corner,
yeah, the current owner did,
Oh,
and he told me that there was not a very long conversation about it.
oh, okay.
So I don't think that's an
So
avenue.
that's not an option.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, does anyone else have any old business? Any new business? I have something for new business. Does anyone else have anything for new business? Okay. We've been talking about this, about including more information for Harb submissions. And because one of the problems as a board that I think we've been having is that people will describe the project, but then there's no real information, no hard information. So I put together a checklist, and I gave everyone a copy of it, everyone on the board here. And I was wondering if we can review this, go over this, or and then have this as part of what's required or what we would like to see. Maybe it needs some tweaking, I don't know, but I feel like at some point, we should really attach this to what we're asking people to submit. Have you guys all looked at it and reviewed it? Do you have any comments about this?
Fine as is. I think you covered about pretty much everything.
Well, I guess the question is, what do we do with this? Somebody submits an application, and they have half of these things and not the other half. We tell them to go away?
Yeah.
I think it depends what half they have.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this on the list won't be relevant to a lot of projects. For example, it says, any known historical information about all buildings on the property, including ancillary structures such as barns, garages, and sheds, if known, include the following:
Sure.
date of building, architect, builder, and so forth. But the reason I think it's important to put this down is First of all, so that we get the information. Second of all, so that we have people thinking about the information. Because I think sometimes when people come before the Harb, they don't even realize that some of these ancillary buildings or the garages or whatever are even part of it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the application that you actually fill in, and there's only 3 boxes that need to be checked, which are sort of the drop dead. If you don't have these, you're not coming in. And I think that's probably, I don't want to make it any more complicated for sure, but I
No.
think this stuff, you know, I think it's good information. I don't think you should, if they don't have it, we shouldn't turn them away.
No.
But to have them know that that's what we're looking for, I think would be helpful.
Well, I think if you attach this to the back
And the backside.
of the application.
You know, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, that's all you need to do.
Yeah. Could we do that, Peggy, or Bill? or-
What we'd first have to do is we'd have to have it reviewed by Bob, and the solicitor will have to look at it as well before we put it on the official application.
Okay,
And then, you know, after their recommendations, we could probably do that.
okay. I mean, I think we should go ahead and at least get this going, because it's been a problem for 3 years, and at least maybe this will help so that we get more information, and then people don't have to keep coming back,
You know,
over
At
and
the
over
very
again.
least,
along
it'll
with,
be guidance.
you know, you may want to have one line attached to this that says failure to provide pertinent, failure to provide the information could result in not review of your project until you give us the information. Kind of a warning up
Mhm.
front that this is what we're really looking for. It's not a nice to have, it's like, we need this stuff.
It might not be a bad warning. It
Yeah.
doesn't have any teeth, but it tells them.
Yeah, but
Right.
Really
something
should- it
nice,
could
not
have teeth.
really, you know, something that doesn't sound so bureaucratic.
What do you think, George, as our lawyer?
Well, I guess I'm tending to want to tone it down a bit, that it maybe is more towards guidance than an absolute requirement.
Mhm.
I think the guidance is very helpful, and I think people should aspire to providing all this information. And, you know, the warning language is fine too, we can have that in there, but I'm not so sure that it's the end of the world if they don't have it.
Right.
I think we should, I think if we put something like what you're suggesting, that would cover it, don't you think?
You know, the real issue that comes up, and this is something that I went to one of these seminars a while ago, and it was brought up about Harb decisions and having pertinent backup to your decisions. And this gives us a real reason to say, well, you don't have the information, we asked you to have the information. And nobody can come back later on saying, well, how come you let that guy slide and you know, you're denying me the privilege to be here. But here we're telling them up front, and here's the consequence if you don't provide us the information.
Yeah.
Just
Well-
like we have a reason why we approved a building. We're not consistent with that, but we really should be saying, we approve this application for the following reasons. And that's something we really have to get back to doing again.
Mhm.
And that's something that was really stressed by Michelle for all the Harbs that he gets involved with. Because when cases come up and appeals come up later on, you've got a solid footing that says you've seen our past and we've given you reasons.
Yeah. Well, could we put something like what you were suggesting after the first paragraph?
Yeah, a nice warning.
It says the Harb is requesting the following information. It doesn't say that we're demanding,
Right.
Mhm.
you know, and if pertinent, to be included with all applications for Harb review. I think putting, how would you word that?
You want to change the first paragraph, is what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying, I think the first paragraph is okay. I
Yeah.
think we should just add that.
The warning scene?
The warning.
I think you just put it in as the last sentence. It sounds like
Yeah.
that would follow perfectly.
Okay, so what was it?
Failure to
Failure to
provide,
include
yeah.
Pertinent information may result in a denial of your request.
Okay.
Or a denial of review of your request, because you're not necessarily denying what they're doing. So we're just not.
Well, just denial of review.
Denial of
Denial of
review,
review.
yeah.
So failure to include the pertinent information may result
In
in
a denial of the review of your
a
application.
denial of the review of your application. Okay. Could we give this to you, Bill, and then have the solicitor take a look at it?
Yeah, is it possible you could email it to,
Yeah, I'll email it to you
yeah,
with the
email it to
change.
Peg, yeah, with
Yeah.
that, with the change on there that you want, and then we'll email it to our
Okay.
director, Bob Loper, and then have him forward it to Mr. Rice, our interim
Okay.
solicitor.
Great, that's great. Okay. Does anyone else have any other comments? Do we have to approve this or not? No.
No.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.